The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
So we don't know if autopsy report even exists, if it was ever signed by Dr. Harley, the medical examiner on Maui, and if it does exist and it was signed by medical examiner, what exactly does it state? So we are uncovering fraud upon fraud in this matter, and I'm waiting for a decision of a judge in this case. And of course, as you know, I have one case in D.C. dealing with a fabricated selective service registration with a fabricated postal stamp, and another in Maryland in regards to his stolen Social Security number. And just recently, I got an email from somebody who claims to be an employee of Google, stating that he works in a department where they prepare, those reports of hits, of popularity of specific websites. And those are important because advertisers would pay you based on your popularity of your website or how many hits you have, and if they downgrade your popularity, you do not get advertising dollars. And two, it's basically your standing in the community, your name, and they're trying to say, well, people who pursue this issue are crazy, nobody listens to them.
Well, there's so much. I mean, we'll pause one more time here. Hang on. It is 11 after 8, 8:11. Good morning, everyone. It's a Wednesday. Peter Boyle, 710 KNUS with Orly Tates. Now, for those of us who are so drawn into the story of Barack Obama, and who, in fact, is Barack Obama. And there have been people for a number of years who have been suggesting that Obama lived a bisexual life. And, I mean, that's one hell of a charge to make. I mean, but see, when you don't know anything, then anything goes. If you don't have any truth, then anything is the truth. So, purportedly, and there have been these different people, one in particular that I remember, and I talked to him at great length, a guy by the name of Larry Sinclair. And like I say, he's one of those do what you want to do with guys. But what's interesting is, no one has ever said Larry Sinclair was wrong. They just ignore Larry Sinclair. And so now this woman has shown up and makes similar charges apparently about Obama in high school. Now, again, these are, I don't know what that would even what would happen in a courtroom.
Oh, you know what, Peter? You should interview Bettina Viviano. She's a Hollywood producer, and as a matter of fact, when I just started this journey, she and a woman by name Gigi Gaston, a Hollywood director, have helped me. They stated that they went to Chicago during the Democratic National Convention in 2008, and they mingled with people who were delegates. They went to a number of bars, and everyone was telling them openly that it's kind of open secret that Obama has a gay relation.
But again, here we are when you know nothing and we know nothing, so that no truth is known, so all truth will fly.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. At the same time, it's fascinating. And it's, who is this guy? And that's really,
I don't know.
The legitimate question is, who is this guy? And
well, here's another interesting fact. I looked up on the internet, I think it was in Ancestry.com. There are a number of sites where you can see all kinds of old documents. And you can easily find documents on Bush daughters. For example, there is mention of a birth certificate for Jenna Bush, for her marriage certificate, I've seen marriage certificate of Chelsea Clinton. We could not find any documents on the daughters of Barack Obama. And I was contacted by one of my supporters who stated that she used to work for the U.S. Embassy in Morocco. And she swears that the younger girl of Obama's was adopted in Morocco.
Yeah, but see, look what it does. I mean, it's when it gets, one of the reasons when it gets too wide and too crazy, you have to, or I think in my estimation, you have to rein this in and say, does it get too nuts? Does it get too crazy? Does it get too far out there that instead of focusing, and that's why I've never talked about this, we had Larry Sinclair on the radio show years ago, but I've never talked about this because I think it just gets too nuts. But at the same time, and I leave you with the question, who is this guy? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. You and I, and we could get 25 people in one room and talk about 25 people I respect about who is Barack Obama. And I don't think you could give the same answer. I don't think anyone would know. I think people would have guesses, educated guesses predicated on what little documentation we have compared to the life story that's told. Well, we know this much. Every bit of the life story that's told to a high degree of probability is not true.
Absolutely. No, not one single valid ID.
None of it. No.
We see invalid selective service registration, invalid birth certificate, invalid Social Security
number, and we get down a list of things, and they're not.
And let me tell you, there are only basically just two basic IDs, your birth certificate and your Social Security number. Sure, and the rest of the IDs are called secondary IDs.
Sure,
they're based on these two. Yeah. So if those two are not valid, he has nothing. No. This man does not have one valid piece of paper. And you know, I came from the Soviet Union, as you know, and I see the actions by Vladimir Putin, and I can tell you, I can understand where he is coming from. He sees Obama as a Manchurian candidate in the United States presidency in the White House. He sees, and that's what is worrisome. Not only that we don't know a lot about Obama, and everything that we know is extremely worrisome, extremely frightening, and it shows that this man can cause enormous damage to this nation. He has given orders to unilaterally reduce our nuclear arsenal. He has given orders to discontinue production of Tomahawk missiles, a very important weapon in U.S. arsenal. He purged the military of top officers, some 200 officers. He made it into gay and lesbian sing and dance club instead of a well-trained military. And it's extremely worrisome. And not talking about the fact that he destroyed the U.S. economy by doubling its debt, incurring $7 trillion worth of debt in 5 short years. What worries me...
it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes. Ms. Taitz, I am at my break. I wanted you to talk about, and do you believe this woman who has now shown up, do you believe the story she's telling?
Yeah, I do believe her. I talked to her extensively. I do believe she's telling the truth.
Do you believe Larry Sinclair?
No. Well, I mean, let me tell you with Larry Sinclair. I do believe that he had an encounter with Donald Young. Yeah. But I had a really bad experience with Larry Sinclair.
Yeah, I've had one too. He's a weird guy.
Yeah.
And so I never brought him up again, but here... This morning we're talking, so this guy does exist, Larry Sinclair.
I mean, he does have an extensive criminal record. He was selling things that were not true. So he is not the best witness, let's put it this way. But I do believe Mia Pope. I do believe all the other evidence that we have. Okay. Also, just recently, we've seen an autopsy report of Miriam Carey, and this is an African-American young woman who tried to get into, actually to go and see Obama, go to the White House.
Oh, yeah. That's a crazy story.
With a newborn, and she was assassinated,
she was killed,
shot in the head.
That is a crazy story. And they killed her. Yeah, they really did kill her.
Yeah, they assassinated. This unarmed young woman with a baby was assassinated, shot multiple times in the back of the head. Yeah, that's assassination. Yeah. She was not posing threat to anybody. No. And the family is now demanding a paternity test because she was saying that she has links to Obama.
Baby. I need to cut it here, but I know that story as well. Orly, as always, I'm glad you're well. Thank you so much for doing a radio show, and I know we'll be talking next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.